Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Dr. Aadeel Akhtar, welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Oh my gosh, and you brought Ability Hand from PSYONIC. We're so grateful. You are the founder and CEO of PSYONIC, and you created the Ability Hand, which is awesome. I was seeing your videos on it. You're going to share your story. What prompted you to create it? But what's so awesome, and what I've heard from people online who have used it, is it feels so much more like a real hand. And both for people who have it on, amputees who've had to use it, it gives them the ability that before was somewhat limited. And so welcome to Savvy. And then I'm going to have you share this wonderful story. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly my pleasure.
Well, tell me, what started this all out for you? What was the impetus for you saying, I'm going to create a better, ability hand, or, a hand that's for amputees? What was the impetus for it?
Yeah, it was actually, this is something I've wanted to do my entire life, ever since I was actually 7 years old. My parents are from Pakistan, and I was visiting. And when I was visiting, it's the first time I met someone with a limb difference. And she was my age, missing her right leg and using a broken tree branch as a crutch. And that's what inspired me to want to go into this field. And so when I was in the US, I went to Loyola University Chicago for my undergrad, got a bachelor's in biology there, master's in computer science, and taught in their CS department for a couple of years before coming down to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And then I got another master's in electrical and computer engineering there, a PhD in neuroscience. And technically I'm in med school right now on a leave of absence.
Wow.
But, this is a little bit more fun. And this is what I wanted to do. So I don't know if I'm going to go back, but it's been quite a crazy journey for sure. And starting out as a young kid who's like curious about all this stuff, all the way to building something like this that people are actually out there using, and it feels, and it like is faster than any other bionic hand in the world.
Wow. And what I'm guessing, see, you being intrigued to even go to medical school is part of what probably is part of what you do here at PSYONIC, because you help and you put people back together so they could use their limbs as efficiently as possible. And you'd probably be a surgeon if you were to go into medicine. What do you think, eh?
Yeah, probably. The original plan was neurosurgery, but I was like, man, that's a lot of time, right? That's a lot of schooling to go through that. And kudos to the neurosurgeons who do that. We had this opportunity in front of us where we had built this amazing technology during my PhD. And we actually got a chance while I was doing my PhD to go down to Ecuador, where we were working with a nonprofit organization called the Range of Motion Project. And their whole mission is to provide prosthetics to those who can't afford them around the world. And so, you have to imagine that our hand at the time, it was like 3 times the size of a normal human hand, had wires going everywhere, plugged into like breadboards, plugged into the wall, and all of this stuff, right? Despite that, our patient, Juan Suquillo, he literally said in front of like these national news stations that he felt as though a part of him had come back because he had made a pinch with his left hand for the first time in 35 years. And he had actually forgotten how to pinch with his left hand, and we had to retrain his brain in order to remember that and reactivate his muscles. So when he said that, that's when we were just like, if I stay in academia, this just ends up as like a university project or on a journal paper somewhere. If we want everyone to feel that exact same way, we needed to commercialize the technology. And so that's when we really got to developing this hand, and over the last 7 years. And finally, it's available nationwide in the US as of last month.
Wow. Now, you know what I'm getting from this? You had mentioned neurology or that type of thing. This has to play into the nervous system and connecting with the brain. How does that work? Because you have this hand here. How does that connect with your nervous system and your brain so that it all operates together? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, absolutely. And so So you might be familiar with like EKGs, right? Or like, the things you see in like TV shows where they put those heart
Yeah.
sensors on you and you see that beep, 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 right? So imagine those same sensors, but you place them over your muscles instead. So like the muscles in your forearm, for example. So all the muscles that control your fingers to flex and extend, their muscle bellies are actually located in your forearm. So even if you're missing your hand, we can place those same like heart sensors on your muscles in your forearm. And that way, when you try to like bend your wrist back and forth or move your fingers around, we can read that muscle activity and then drive the prosthesis that way.
Wow. So now if someone comes into your office today and they get hooked up, they have the sensors, I'm assuming, hooked up to those muscles so they can start to train their brain to the bionic hand, ability hand.
Exactly.
Do they need to have those sensors continually, or does the body begin to kind of almost connect with the electronics of the ability hand, become one?
So it's kind of both, right? Because it's those sensors that are picking up that muscle activity, and it's embedded in a socket that would go around your residual limb. So if I lost my arm like right over here, you'd go see a clinician called a prosthetist who would mold a socket that goes around your residual limb and houses those sensors. And the more you use it, the more you get used to it, and the more it starts to feel natural in controlling a device like this, right? I mean, imagine like, the same way we like play video games, like if you played video games as a kid, like it just becomes like second nature and very natural to just use a controller. It's the same principle that's driving these prosthetic devices.
Wow. It's like the neurology meeting amazing electronics together, coming together as one unit. Because, I've seen people say, you get out of the car, you don't know how to drive at one point, but you get to a point where it's automatized. You just jump in the car, you go somewhere, you're like, I got here. You don't really think about how you get there. It's now on automatic.
Exactly. It is exactly just like that.
Wow. So now share some of the patient success stories, because I saw some online and they were phenomenal, but share some of the patient success stories and what difference it made for some of the people that now were able to use the ability hand, how it changed their life.
Yeah, and so our very first patient in the U.S., right, was a retired U.S. Army sergeant. So retired U.S. Army Sergeant Garrett Anderson, and so he lost his I believe it was his left hand in Iraq in 2005 due to a roadside bomb. And he used a hook on a daily basis, right? I mean, this is technology that hadn't changed since like the Civil War era of the United States. And, this is one of our like, our national heroes. And we were like, we should try, upgrading him to like the 21st century. And so he has tested out basically every version of our of the ability hand, like from version 1 all the way to like, version 9, which is like the nationwide release version. And he was able to do push-ups for the first time since his Army days. So he makes like a fist like this, and
awesome.
and all his body weight on that, right? And then he was also able to do like because it's the first hand to give users touch feedback. So in the fingertips, we have pressure sensors, and then you feel a vibration that corresponds to touch. When he held his daughter's hand, he could actually feel it, and that's something that no
my God
in the world can do. So, yeah, I mean, one of our patients more recently is the 2018-2019 para triathlete national champion. And he was able to, go to the gym and like work out and lift weights with the device, and especially on his on the side with his limb difference, he hasn't been able to do that for such a long time. And when he first got fitted, one of his buddies actually just threw him a water bottle in the air, and like within 3 minutes of being fitted with this device, he was able to catch it because of the speed of the hand. And just these like little things that we kind of take for granted on a daily basis that like we've enabled people to do again, that has been profound in affecting their quality of life.
Wow. I know my husband has this thing where his spine has fused, and he's asked surgeons, like, there's something you could do to give me mobility back. And they're like, no, we're not touching the spine. Once it's fused, we don't want to but the wonderful work you're doing and what you've done with the ability hand might later on correlate to things like maybe being able to, articulate a neck or other such injuries where people could get their mobility back that they've lost.
Absolutely. And the technology that we've built in here to control each one of the fingers to open and close just like that, right? It's directly applicable to like knees and ankles and elbows and wrists and necks and exoskeletons for people who are paralyzed. Like, exactly.
Yeah. You know, it's just such a blessing. And you mentioned something very important that we take for granted, not only the mobility we have, but that fully functioning body if we're healthy. And we don't, you know, it's until you become unhealthy or something happens, a disaster, like you lose a limb, that you realize how blessed you are when everything works perfectly, and you're giving that blessing back to people. That's just so awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is exactly why we do this, right? That is why we got into this, is so that we could give this quality of life back to our users.
That's great. Now, if anyone's listening in, they're thinking, I know a loved one or myself, and I would love to get, you know, a new arm that actually works, is different than the bionic arm I'm using. How do they get in touch with your company and get fitted? What would that look like?
Yeah, so the first thing they can do is just go to our website. So it's www.psyonic.io. And from there, there's a contact us form on there, and all the emails go directly to us, and then we would reach out to them, get them in contact with if they have a clinician, we'd speak with them, or if they don't have one, we'll put them in contact with one.
Yeah. And do insurance take it yet and help pay for it, or how does that look as well?
Yeah. And so just to put things in perspective, before our hand really came around, an advanced bionic hand like this, it was only covered by either workers' comp or the VA. So either if you were in the military or if you had a workplace accident. And that was only about 10% of people with upper limb differences could afford it then. And so we actually got this covered by Medicare in the United States. So we've expanded that access to 75% of Americans can now afford an advanced bionic hand. And so that's what we were all about, right? We wanted to build the most advanced device, but make it more accessible than ever before.
That is so great. So they want to get started today. They call you up. What is the process once they've called you up and you've made an appointment? How long before they're actually meeting you guys to actually getting set up and having their own bionic hand and set up? Yeah.
Usually that process can take around like a month or so. And so they have to first schedule an appointment with the clinician where they'll take a casting of their residual limb, and then they can make the socket for it that'll house all of our electronic components. So we've got like, you know, our USB-C charger. So the same way you plug in your phone, you can plug in your arm. You can actually charge your phone from your arm too. So we like to give our users, right? And so the clinician will take all those electronics, like the battery, our charger, put it in the socket, and then they would attach our hand, like that just pops off just like that, onto their socket that was designed just for them.
That's amazing.
And so that takes about like 2 or 3 appointments usually, and over the course of a month.
That's awesome. Now, what's in the future for you guys? Are you going to build legs coming up, or what's?
Yeah. So we're already looking into an ability leg for sure. We've got some really exciting things on the sensory feedback front that we're looking into as well. So right now, when you touch the fingertips, it'll feel like a vibration, kind of like your phone, right? And so one of the things that we've been working on is an electrical stimulator that you can put on your skin. And by changing the amount of current that we send, the timing of it, how often you send it, we can make it feel like different things, like light touch, strong touch, pressure, vibration, even pain. Wow. And the hard part is making it consistent. And so that's what our research is looking into, and making that consistent. But you can imagine that, like, if you touch here and then it feels like an actual touch on your skin, that has applications beyond just prosthetics. I mean, virtual reality, like robotic surgery, like you can actually feel the tip of like the surgeon's instrument on like your fingers, or you touch a loved one over virtual reality and you can feel it on your fingertips, right? So that's some of the cool stuff we're working on. We're also working on more seamless integration with the body itself. So what we call osseointegrated implants. So like directly attaching the prosthetic to your bones and to your muscles as well. So those are some like really cool and like, you know, seemingly almost science fiction things that we're heading towards in the future here.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's like science fiction come alive. But God bless you and the work that all of your crew are doing to make a reality this wonderful ability hand. And then go to PSYONIC, which is PSYONIC.io. Thank you so much, Dr. Akhtar, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting. It's been a great pleasure having you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been my pleasure indeed.
That's awesome.
like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.